Many congratulations to the top three qualifiers for the FIA Formula One Australian Grand Prix. In third place, Lewis Hamilton. In second place, George Russell, and taking the 22nd pole position of his Formula One career and his first here at Albert Park, our pole sitter, Max Verstappen. Max, very well done to you. 0.25 ahead of the field. Just how good was that final lap?
The last lap was pretty decent. Up until then, it was just really tricky to find the grip and try to nail it on one lap. I think you could see everyone was doing either like a build or going faster on the second attempt. But yeah, I only had time in that last run to go out and just go for that first time. But this time, it worked out. So very happy with that.
So disrupted practice sessions here at Albert Park. Just can you talk to us about the session as a whole and how you feel it went from Q1 through to Q3?
Yeah, I think overall it was going quite well. Q1, Q2, Q3, but like I said, just very tough to get the tires to work in turn one, and get that comfortable feeling through that corner. I think that has been a bit the story again the whole week, and I think also it wouldn't have mattered if we had full running in FP1 and FP2. It's just on a performance lap, it seems very tricky with this new tarmac around here since last year.
And with that disruption to practice, how's tomorrow going to play out? Do you feel a little bit undercooked as we go into the race? Have you done all of the homework that you need to do?
Yeah, I mean, I did a long run in FP3, so I had a bit of a read on the tires. And I mean, I don't think it's a straightforward race with the tires, but I think what we've shown so far this year, I think the car normally is good in the race.
And Max, are you surprised to have these two guys sat next to you?
I'm a little bit surprised. Maybe they are also a little bit surprised, but I guess it's a good thing. But again, it's all about just having that the tires in the right window, and I guess they did a good job with that as well.
All right, very well done to you. Thank you, Max. George, coming to you then, how much of a surprise is this result?
Yes, it is a surprise, there's no doubt about it. I think we're learning more and more about this car. We know it's not where we want it to be, but it's probably evolved just with the setup since Bahrain to Jeddah to here. We've seen that performance improvement with the exact same car. For sure, tyres played a big part this weekend, as Max alluded to. And the pace on that final lap was quite surprising. Really pleased to just be 2.5 tenths off when we were a second off on other occasions. So let's see what tomorrow brings.
You say the setup has evolved from race to race. Just how much better does the car feel here than at either of the first two races?
I think the feeling of the car is not the limitation, to be honest. The car feels pretty decent. It's probably the best F1 car I've ever driven, or raced, sorry. Probably excluding the obvious 2020 experience with Mercedes. But we're just lacking a bit of downforce. We know we've made some huge gains over the past 2-3 weeks in the wind tunnel, and hopefully we'll be bringing that to the track sooner than later. But this result today is going to give us a huge amount of confidence, regardless of what tomorrow brings over the course of the next 4 weeks. Because if we can deliver a performance like this with a car that is definitely quite a bit off the pace, it shows good promise for when we bring the first upgrade.
How has this qualifying session changed your ambitions for the race tomorrow?
We've got to go for it, haven't we? We've got to go for the win. I think Max is going to be extremely fast. There's no hiding that. I think it's difficult to overtake around this circuit. So the start, lap 1, is going to be vital. But the Red Bull has extraordinary top speed. So it's going to be very difficult to fight with Max. But yeah, let's see how we get on. We got to do our own race. But if the opportunity's there, we'll go for it.
All right, very well done to you, Lewis. Great to have you back up here as well. George has said this is unexpected. How do you explain the turnaround at Mercedes?
I think it's perhaps track specific, but I think ultimately just there's no one in the team that's had their heads down, and in terms of giving up. Everyone's been working incredibly hard to try to squeeze the most out of what we currently have. We, as George mentioned, we are a little bit down on downforce where we really want to be, but everything came together today. So I mean, it feels amazing to to be up here either side of Max, and I really hope that tomorrow we can somehow hold on to him. He might pull our way into the distance like he has done in the past, but we'll give it our best shot.
You've got to give it your best shot. Just how realistic is it for us to think you could challenge for the win?
I think it's just difficult to say. I mean, I haven't even done a long run, so tomorrow going into the race would be the first time I do so. And I've not seen where we tally up compared to them. But I mean, I think they generally have, we have to expect they're going to be quarter of a second, half a second at least quicker than us. But maybe in the toe, maybe we can just about hold on. Maybe the fact that there's two of us and only one Red Bull, maybe with strategy, maybe we can apply some pressure to them. So we'll see.
And Lewis, at one point in that session, you were top of the timesheets, probably doing a little rain dance at that moment. Did you dare to dream at that point that that 9th pole position at the same racetrack could have been on?
Yeah, honestly, that felt like a great lap, and it was very, very surreal to see us at the top for a second. And then obviously I saw Max was finishing his lap, so just about lost it. But then the last lap just wasn't really that great. Unfortunately, as Max mentioned, just difficult to get the tyres working, and yeah, left plenty of performance on the table just in the sense of just couldn't get the tyres really working. So second lap was a bit average, but still I managed to get it up there for the team, and tomorrow I'll do better.
Very well done to you. Let's open this to the floor now. Name and publication, please. Who's got our first one?
Alex Kalinauckas, Autosport. Question to Max, please. Max, it was obviously a bit of a notable jump in time from your sort of earlier Q3 laps to that final one that got pole. We also heard you mentioning some issues on the radio with the gear shifts, things like that. Was there a problem with the car? What was going on there? And did that sort itself out for the final run?
No, it's not an issue. It's just not good. I mean, it's something I always want improved. And I think also my first run in Q3 was slower than Q2, so the laps were not amazing at that time.
Thank you, Max. Next one. Any more? Yep.
Alex Kalinauckas, Autosport again. Question to Lewis this time, please. We saw you were behind the Haas. I think it was Hulkenberg ahead of those final corners ahead of your last run in Q3. Did that cost you early on in the start of the lap, having to go extra slow on that last warm-up lap, and without it, might you've been able to get a bit close to George and Max?
It definitely was a little bit confusing, and definitely wasn't an optimum way of starting your lap. Normally you need to try and keep pace up in that last sector, but there was a lot going on, so it wasn't as good as as I said, it wasn't as good as the start of the previous lap, and but I think I think we did lack a little bit of temperature. It picked up towards the end of the lap, and my last sector I think was a little bit better, but yeah, I think that's how it goes sometimes.
George, can I bring you in? Lewis thought this might be track specific. Do you think the pace of the Mercedes will translate to other racetracks?
For sure, we maximised the job today, no doubt about it, but we had a good qualifying last week in Jeddah. I didn't put my lap together in the last run in Jeddah, and was only a 10th off P3. So no, I don't think necessarily is track specific. I do think we're making some improvements with the understanding of the car. Yeah, I don't really know, but for sure the tyres play a big factor. You know, when you get those tyres in the sweet spot, you make a big jump, and I think even I improved 4/10 maybe on my last run in Q3. So yeah, unfortunately, it's always tyres.
Thank you. Yep, another question.
Hi there, Tom Carey, Telegraph. We heard Lewis say just then that with two Mercedes at the front and only one Red Bull, they could maybe, gang up on Max, whatever. We saw Max come through in Saudi from a long way back. Do you think that Checo's still a factor? It's a question for all three of you, really. Can he still do something? Would it require safety cars? Obviously, very track specific.
Max, let's start with you.
Normally not for me.
But how far do you think your teammate can get tomorrow?
I don't know. I think this track is a bit tricky to pass, but that extra DRS zone will help for sure. But again, yeah, it's just really difficult to say. I mean, it depends also how the pace of the other cars are in the race, if they have tired deck or if you're better on deck. Yeah, a lot of factors come into play.
Thank you. George?
I think it'll be challenging around here. For sure, he'll come through to the top 10, but I don't think on a circuit like this you'll be able to fight it towards the front.
Okay. Lewis? Same. Okay. Yep. Another one.
Phil Duncan, PA. I know it's very early days and only one qualifying session, but George, in Bahrain, you said you expect Red Bull to win every race this year. Does this change your mind? Do you and Lewis now think that, and this is to Lewis as well, do you guys think that you can actually get in the mix? I know it's only one qualifying session, but does it give you hope, I suppose?
Yeah, obviously, after a frustrating qualifying like the one we had in Bahrain, you say some things in the heat at the moment. I do still think Red Bull are a class ahead of everybody else, and for sure Lewis and I got the most out of it today. And by the sounds of what Max is saying, there was probably still a little bit more in the locker. And we're talking that 3/10 is a little bit. Normally they're a second ahead. Now they're 3/10 ahead. That's still a huge amount in the world of F1. So, we're not going to give up. We're going to keep on pushing. And I think right now we'll have to reassess when we bring some upgrades to the car, and that will be the first time when we'll truly know if they work as they expect and if we can fight them. But yeah, why not?
Yeah, same. I can't even remember what the question was. What was the question?
Can we win?
Yeah. Whatever.
That wasn't even.
Does this change your view of the rest of the season, Lewis?
No, but I think, like you said, yeah, of course, this. I think this gives everyone in the team a boost and a glimpse of hope, and this will spur everyone on and will inspire everyone to continue to push. We know that if we can just bring a little bit of performance, we can close the gap to the front. So, still, there are going to be places where their gap is a lot bigger. So, today, whilst the gap looks small, in other places, as I said, you look in the last race, it was a bit of a bigger gap. So yeah, I think we just try to stay consistent. We've got great reliability, and we can continue to apply the pressure, bag those points, and then when the car is right, maybe we can start fighting for wins. That'd be incredible.
Thank you. Do we have any more? Yep, other one.
Alex Kalinauckas, Autosport. Question to all three drivers, please. Ahead of this weekend, the FIA has decided it's going to quite strictly enforce a rule that means if you guys finish on the podium tomorrow, your mechanics can't come and climb the pit wall fences and celebrate with you. I know they can't really do it here because there's like glass panelling, but other tracks that won't be possible anymore. What was your reaction to that? Do you think it's a bit of a shame, or does safety come, trump everything? Thanks.
I think initially when I read that, I was a little disappointed because I think that's part of the sport. Then I heard it's only about climbing the fence, so they can still stand on the pit wall. And I think some of the older circuits we go to, if you stand on those fences, they do wobble, and if you've got 20, 30 big guys on there, I know we've got some big boys in our team. You'd never want to see something like that happen. So yeah, I guess it's a shame in some ways, but yeah, I don't know. If we saw something like that falling when the cars are passing, that'd be pretty horrific.
Explained it well, Lewis. Anything on that?
I'm going to answer all your questions for you.
All right. Yeah, another one.
Andrew Benson, BBC Sport. This is particularly to George and Max, because I know you've been talking about this weekend, but Lewis, I'd like your opinion too on the sprint race format change proposals. What do you think about them all?
So all three, Andrew?
Yes,
Yeah,
particularly
okay.
George and Max, because I know they've been talking about it with
Okay,
F1, but Lewis as well.
What is the proposal?
The options of changing for Baku, maybe one lap qualifying, maybe a shorter qualifying Saturday morning before the sprint, etc.
I mean, when the sprint race was introduced in the beginning, I wasn't a fan. After doing 9 of them, I've become more in favour. I don't think a one-lap qualifying would ever go ahead, and from the things I've heard, that wouldn't be on the cards. I trust in what Stefano and F1 are doing. It's difficult to see in the beginning the prospects, but we got to keep on evolving. I do think globally, qualifying and Grand Prix works very well, but I'm open to change, review, and go again. But yeah, as I said, I trust them, and I'll back them whatever they believe is right.
What changed your opinion on the sprints?
I think having the action on the Friday, arriving to the track, having action every single day. Also for the fans in the crowd, I think just watching cars circulating in practice, I don't think it's as exciting as when you have a qualifying session like this or a sprint race. So I think it's exciting for us, for the teams, and for the fans. So yeah, probably that.
Thank you, Max, please.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of it at all, but also I think when we're gonna do all that kind of stuff, the weekend becomes even more intense, and we're already doing so many races. So I think that is not the right way to go at it. I understand, of course, they want to have like basically every day exciting, but then I think maybe it's better to just reduce the weekend. Only race on Saturday and Sunday and make those 2 days exciting, because we're heading into seasons where you have at one point 24, 25 races, because that's what we're going to head into. And if we then start adding, even more stuff, it's not worth it for me anyway. I'm not enjoying that. And for me, a sprint race is all about surviving. It's not about racing for me. When you have a quick car, there's nothing to risk. I prefer to just keep my car alive and make sure that you have a good race car for Sunday. And even if you change the format, I don't find it's the DNA of Formula One to do these kind of sprint races. F1 is about getting the most out of it in qualifying and then have an amazing Sunday, a good long race distance. And that's the DNA of the sport. And I don't understand, or I don't know why we should change that, because I think the action has been good. And how do you get even more action is about getting the cars closer, getting more teams able to fight for the win. And I think naturally, the show will be great. If we have 6-7 teams already fighting for a win, that would be insane. Then you really don't need to change anything.
Thank you. Lewis, please.
I've not read them, so I don't know what the rule is exactly, but I do think we constantly need to be evolving and assessing what we're doing, and I think the changes, with the sprint race has been positive in some places. We currently, Baku, we couldn't do a 1-lap qualifying because these tyres don't work after 1 lap, and especially if we've got no blankets, then we'll be doing more laps. So I don't know, but I'm open to changes, to continue to make it more inclusive and more engaging for the fans. I quite like the Friday of a sprint weekend so far. I'd love to have more qualifying because that's always super fun. And I just think it should perhaps we can just apply just slightly small changes to different races specific for those places where, if a race where you can't overtake like Monaco, what else can we do there to make it more exciting? Yeah, that's about it.
Thanks all. Do we have any more? Yeah, one more. We'll do one more.
It's Callum Wilkins, Autosport. A question to Max. It's quite a different qualifying session to what we normally see, with you guys doing lots and lots of laps all through qualifying. I just wondered, can you talk us through that? How different is it to be able to peak right at the right times to get the pole as you did today? Thanks.
Yeah, it was. But then, of course, at the end in Q3, I still did only 1 lap. But like I said, it's just been really hard to get the tyres to work in especially the first sector. After just an outlap, and it had something to do with the tarmac around here, where you just can't get the tires in the right working range initially. And with all these like 90-degree corners, if you have like a tiny moment, you lose immediately a lot of momentum. So I mean, it's the same for everyone. We have to deal with it. In the race, normally, of course, it all stabilizes after 1 lap, and then it's not a problem. But it definitely makes it a bit more tricky to get the most out of it in qualifying, whereas some other tracks, you at one point understand a bit what you have to do, more or less, on an outlap, and then you nail it on 1 lap. But yeah, here it's all a bit more complicated.
Thank you, Max. Thanks to all 3 of you. We'll leave it there. Thank you.